All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this afternoon's session on writing groups and how our writing organizations in Dallas, Fort Worth support writers of all genres, all skill levels. We're very excited to be participating in this inaugural Dallas Literary Festival. I am just so impressed with the SMU staff that we've been working with, and especially you, Sandaria, for just being working so hard and so diligently to pull this festival together. It has truly been an amazing and inspiring event. So hand claps to everyone who's been involved, including the planning committee. Yes. So we only have 50 minutes, and we've got some great organizations that are represented here, representing the Dallas literary community here this afternoon. My name is Ann Fields. I'll be the moderator, and please excuse me if I'm wiping my eyes. Allergy season is here. Um, so I am one of the co-founders of the Writers Blog. We are a 25-year-old writing organization. We were founded in 96 at the Irving Public Library, and we represent, our membership is comprised of African-American writers of all genres, all skill levels. And I'm just very pleased and excited to moderate this afternoon's panels of great leaders who are leading our writers forward into the future. So I want to start and just go with our panelists one by one. Aaron, I'd like for you to go first if you don't mind. And then I'm just going to go alphabetical because I'm a writer and I can do my alphabets. So Aaron, I'm going to ask you to go first and tell us a little bit about the writers, Garret, and then Blake, I'll ask you to follow up. And then Tex and Tamara will close us out initially.
Hi. Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you, Anne, for organizing this and putting this together and inviting me to be on this panel with these other incredible, amazing people. My name is Aaron Glover. I'm the executive director of the Writers Garret. We are a 26-year-old literary organization here in Dallas. Our core mission is to connect people through the power of language. So with great literature, with each other, with readers with writers, writers with readers, it's really about kind of creating that connection. And most of what we do these days is workshops with youth and social service organizations to help people who are maybe who don't think of themselves as writers to get a little bit excited about writing and about reading and about what those possibilities are out there with language that way. We also, of course, support the local literary community by hiring our teaching artists out of local poets and writers. We offer workshops for anybody who wants to maybe take a little dabble in certain areas of poetry or writing. We've got a few of those coming up. And we also offer Stone Soup peer critique workshops that are free to anybody who wants to come and bring your work, get a little bit of feedback, give a little bit of feedback, and share that sort of sense of community in a group of writers. So that's, in a nutshell, the Writers Garret.
Great.
Well, I'll jump in. My first name starts with a B, so I guess I go after Aaron. My name's Blake Kimzey, and I'm the executive director of an organization called Writing Workshops Dallas. And we're 4 years old. We're pretty new on the block in terms of writing organizations in Dallas. But I just want to also say, to Sandaria and everybody who's organized the Dallas Literary Festival, I'm just so proud to be a writer who loves to be around other readers and writers in Dallas. And like all the other organizations on here, that's basically, our mission too, is we want to help writers, master the craft, connect with other writers, find a path to publication. And we just offer workshops that help folks grow as writers. And, I'm really excited, I'm really excited for hopefully this pandemic to end soon, because, we have something that we do with the Wild Detectives each month. We have First Drafts, which is just a get together, a happy hour. We partner with Interrobang Books for a quarterly craft series called Lit Talk. We do the Big Texas Read. And and in the summers, we also partner with SMU to offer their pre-college programming for young creative writers, teen creative writers, basically 8th grade through 12th grade. So most of our classes are for adult writers, and we were mostly in person prior to the pandemic. And then of course we had to go online just like everybody else, but we're just really proud to be one small part of this great literary ecosystem here in Dallas. So thank you, Anne, for having us as part of this panel discussion today. I'm really happy to be here.
Tex?
Okay, now the big question, Ann, is are we doing alphabetical by first name or last name? Because it all hinges on this.
You know, Tex, I can always count on you to make it fun.
If that's what you want to call it, Ann, that's what I will be delighted to deliver. And I am really glad to get to be here with you all today. My name is Tex Thompson, and I am the founder and chief instigator of WORD, which is Writers Organizations Round Dallas. And we did not start life, we're three, we're this many. And we did not start, we are not actually a writers group per se. We started life as a listing directory for writers groups. And our core mission is to promote and support the and just catastrophic number of writers groups that we have in the North Texas area and beyond. So, you know, we like to list events for the Writers Garret and Writing Workshops Dallas and the Writers Block, you know, and just to help chronicle and organize the fantastic number of resources that we have here in North Texas for writers of pretty much every stripe. So we would call ourselves a support network for writers, and also North Texas' first budding literary cartel. That's a nice group you got there, Ann. It'd be a shame if something was to happen to it. We do have a couple events of our own that we run every year, and maybe there'll be a minute to talk about that closer to the end of the session. But I guess the best visual metaphor that I have for what WORD does is this big pile of laundry behind me. Because if that is the writers groups of North Texas, we are the organizations of North Texas, we are here to help sort them out so that you can find just the perfect pair of lucky rocket ship underpants that will help you get where you need to go. Yeah.
Thanks,
I'm so glad
Tex.
you like the laundry, Blake, because I am not classy enough to have the Masterpiece Theater background that Aaron is rocking, or any of these beautiful background. No, sorry, it's that day at our house.
I am Tamara Warner. I am the executive president. Well, I'm the president of Dallas Area Writers Group. We are one of the smaller organizations from this panel. So I am really excited about being on this panel with all of these fantastic people. I know Tex and Blake, and I haven't met you, Aaron, but I can't wait to meet you. But I'm really thankful to be here, and I have looked at a few of the events, and I think that this event is fantastic. So I'm very proud of being here, and I'm a little bit nervous too. But I do want to tell you about the Dallas Area Writers Group. We're located in Cedar Hill, and we began in 2004 in the home of Alan C. Elliott. He is a former SMU professor and a children's book author. He lived at that time in Duncanville, and it was just with the intent to start a group where writers in the area could get together and talk about their writing. And at that time, in the Best of Southwest area, there wasn't another writing group, and that's the Cedar Hill, DeSoto, Duncanville, Lancaster group of cities. And so I guess the attendance just went out of control, and they decided they needed a public location and began to meet at the Zula B. Wiley Public Library in Cedar Hill, and of course became a nonprofit, 501c3 and a 509a2 public charity. And so their goal has been since then to provide events like workshops, we've had 3 large-scale workshops. They're called Right to Publish, Climbing Towards Success. And we've been able to do those with the grants offered by DeSoto Arts Commission. So we're like most of the other writing organizations that we offer lecture style classes or sessions rather for writers to learn about writing and publication. We also offer roundtable type of discussions with authors. Since we've moved to the online format, we've had to move our larger scale workshops cut them up into 3 mini workshops, and we do those in the summer. We've published an anthology, and the works in the anthology came from a selection of stories, of stories that were submitted to one of our writing contests. So we try to serve the writing community or the writers in our area with some activities that they may not have the opportunity to get because we are so far south. They may not be able to participate in some of the organizations that are far north. We meet on the second Tuesday of every month, and of course, we're meeting in the DAWG Zoom meeting room now, but when we meet again, we'll return our meetings to the Zula B. Riley Public Library in Cedar Hill. And that's us in a nutshell.
Great, thank you. I appreciate those opening comments. And I appreciate the fact that we all know our alphabet and we all knew to go by first name. It's a little tidbit I forgot to make a point about. But so anyway, let's get into the meat of the session. That's a very good introduction and overlay. I want to hear from you leaders about, so the theme of this year's festival was turbulence, and we've had some challenges of late. And I just want to hear from you what you all have heard from your writers about some of the challenges that they have communicated to you during these turbulent times. So I'll just let whoever wants to go first, go first.
Well, actually, Anne, I asked this question on my Facebook page a few weeks back, just like, hey writers, what's been hard about the last year? And it was amazing to me how many people remarked on the kind of Groundhog Day brutal sameness of the present time, and how it's so hard when you're, in the before times, we would work at the office and we would hang out at the bar and we would exercise at the gym and we would write in our, bedroom or wherever. And now it's like we work in the living room and we exercise in the living room and we hang out in the living room, and now we're trying to write in the living room. And that the breakdown of those sort of like environmental partitions, not just the isolation, but just the fact that you are now trying to be all of those 5 or 6 different people in the exact same place day in and day out. It seems to feel to a lot of people like the peas are all mixed in with the mashed potatoes and the gravy and the cornbread, and it's just this horrible slop that makes it very difficult, especially for long form projects. I was amazed at how many people have said that their magnum opus, like their novel or their series or whatever, was just feeling like it was dead in the water, and they were having a great deal more success with flash fiction or journaling or poetry. I hope that some of our other panelists can speak more to that than I can, but it has definitely been a paradigm shift, so to speak, and maybe we could skip the F and shift, to say the least.
Just to piggyback on that at Writing Workshops Dallas, I mean, I think just in general, to echo those things, I mean, the biggest thing that we miss here in this community is just the in-person connection. And nobody's really asking for the next, thing that you're working on, really, except for you. You're just working on it, you know? And it's so lonely when you face the blank page, and then all of a sudden you have these great events that you can find through Word or through the other writing organizations, and then you get to come out into community. So I think it's just the loneliness of being a writer has been even more lonely, you know, during the pandemic. And so I really miss getting to hang out, because I know all of everybody that's on this panel, you know, and so I think just sticking to projects and being okay with not finishing, and being okay with, you know, it's okay that you can't tune out what's going on right now in the world. So I know that I'm really excited to get back in person, because we have now mastered Zoom. So that's kind of on our end. We're just kind of ready to clink glasses in person at all these, like, you know, literary events here in town.
And I want to kind of piggyback a little on that to say, obviously, you know, the first thing out of everybody's mouth is I miss being in the same space. But something else that's gotten mentioned a couple times from a few different writers that I've talked with is a little bit the pressure that, since you do have all of this writing and you don't have to go anywhere, and Shakespeare did write, you know, whatever, like that Hamlet during the plague, or what, you know, like whatever, that there's this sort of kind of, it's almost as if there are no excuses any longer to why can't you just sit down and write this thing? And of course there are a zillion reasons, right? Like, we're dealing with global, you know, shared trauma of living through a pandemic, that, you know, and are we open? Are we not open? Are people wearing masks? Are they not wearing masks? Can I do 6 feet as I'm trying to get my eggs at the grocery store? Like, you know, all of that is happening. And then it's like, yeah, we'll go home and just sit for 12 hours and then just write. Like, it shouldn't be a problem, right? So I think that there's been, at least in some conversations I've had, it's been about the why am I not writing the thing, right? I do have all of the time. Theoretically, I now have the capability to sit down and do this thing, and it's become harder, but with more time. It's just such a strange place for brains to be, you know?
Before we go on to the next up, I have something to add to that. I think that kind of touches on a little bit on what each person has already said, but maybe a little bit a different spin. Tex talked about this shift, and what I noticed. Well, I remember last night watching the keynote presentation, and Mitchell S. Jackson, you know, gave some advice to writers who were really concerned about, I guess, the confusing process of writing and being published. And he said the most important thing you can do is, if you're not the strongest possible writer, ask why not, and figure out what you need to do to improve. So I've noticed that with some of our participants, that they're at that very point of self-evaluation. They have all of this time, or they don't have enough time, but we're in this weird reality right now, and they're thinking about their writing, but they're not so much focused on how to get it published anymore. They're talking more about the actual writing. I guess what I'm trying to say is, they're looking a little bit deeper into their work. They're looking at, you know, where they feel like their deficits are, and some of them are frustrated and not being able to start certain projects, or not knowing how to. So this shift, I think this shift became really apparent to me because I've been with DAWG for about 5 years. I became president like 2 months before the social distancing started. So I had to go into overdrive to figure out how to move, you know, our in-person events online. I was not a Zoom type of person. And I was also worried about keeping the attendance up. So I had to think about the type of programming, or I call them programs, the type of events that bring excitement and that provoke conversation in the attendees. So I was thinking about that and thinking about what I was observing while we're in this social distancing, you know, period. And our writers have really taken a step back, and they're not rushing to figure out that publishing, but they're more having discussions surrounding their motivations behind the writing. Why do I want to tell this story? How do I incorporate this new unfamiliar experience into my writing? And what do I do with these old memories that I've stuffed down and now they've resurfaced? Some of our participants have suffered a lot of loss during the last 14 months. And many of them have found themselves really blocked in their writing, or they're frustrated, like I said before, because they have certain projects or they had certain things that they wanted to try and they don't know how to approach it. And I think that, you know, perhaps maybe some of them don't have knowledge of a lot of the different works, because there's a lot of programming on, you know, Zoom that people could participate in. But I think that maybe that too, not having that social interaction, the human to human and the face to face, going out to different events, maybe that plays a part in it too. But that's just something, that's a shift that I noticed. It was a shift less of asking questions about, you know, what do I do? What's the next step? In trying to figure out the whole game of being published. And now they're talking more, having more discussions about different, deeper parts of their writing.
That's great. That's great. Thank you all. That's some really good insight that I think is important. You know, as writers, we have to be plugged into the world. We have to find ways to stay fresh. And so just listening to some of the challenges, it looks like definitely today's turbulent times had an impact on writers. I want to put a bookmark here for a second and get to Scott's question, because I don't want to lose track of it. But in the chat, Scott says, I'm a widower who currently writes a weekly column. And Tamara, this might be for you, because it looks like Scott is located in Waxahachie, which is that Cedar Hill area that you all service. And he is always looking for ways to improve writing. So do you have anything else that you want to share with Scott about what it is that DAWG offers to nonfiction writers? It looks like Scott is focused on grief.
Well, we don't have that many. We do have nonfiction writers that participate with us, but not a lot that share their work or that participate in events and read their work, or bring their work to discussions where we evaluate it or our panel critiques it. So the majority of our events are centered around fiction, children's. We have a small section of poets in our groups. I don't have much to offer for that, but I was going to talk about, I thought maybe I could talk about this later. I wasn't sure if I would have the opportunity, but I do want to say, if you're centered around, if you're thinking about needing some inspiration or information about writing about grief, one of the ways that I thought to kind of, I guess, serve the people that wanted to talk about, you know, their writing and have more discussions and less of the publishing types of events, was Tex allowed me to moderate a track in her WordFest event last year. And I moderated a session with psychologist Dr. Karen Groves, and I'll put her name in the chat. And her focus was on identifying and eliminating the things in life that stifle our writing. I'm sure she has other talks, you know, designed for writers, but that was the one that she presented on that day. And some of the things she talked about, and that some exercises that we participated only dealt with thoughts, and maybe even, you know, some events that had happened in our life. I asked her to speak to another group that I also participated in, and everyone really opened up and they talked about their writing in ways that they said, and they told us that that they hadn't before. And then also this year, she spoke about writing memoirs. And one of the quotes that's on her website is, "Pieces of the past haunt me, elusive remnants of people and their lives left in relics a time long ago. Their stories call out to me and they want to be told." And that was what I was experiencing from some of the groups, that they wanted to talk about these memories. They wanted to talk about the loss. They wanted to talk about grief. We had one participant who, she is homebound, and she doesn't have the opportunity to go out and go to events and to mingle with people. And she suffered a lot of grief in her life. And this session with Trisha Faye, we were talking about memoir, but it took her to a place where she could really open up and talk about some of the hurtful things that happened in her past that were keeping her from writing her best stories or writing her best poetry. There were stories that she wanted to write that she felt like she couldn't. And she was able to talk about that with a group of other people who wanted to deal with some of those same issues. I think that history and memories are both very delicate, and I think they can be broken if they're mishandled. And that was why I chose Trisha Faye to come and talk to us, based off of the feedback I was getting or the responses that I was having in some of the other events we were having. And because she's a person that she respects memories and she respects history, and she uses history and things that happened long ago to really tell stories about people, to help people tell their stories. So she's another person that I would consider looking toward. I'm hoping at the end of this year, I will have both Karen Groves and Trisha Faye in one session, with Karen talking about dealing with your writing on a psychological level, and Trisha helping you with the research, giving you the guidance on how you do the research and how you tell the stories, how you deal with family histories in a way that is appropriate for memoir or other type of writing, and does not harm the delicate nature of some of the stories maybe around. I think that that's why we do this, right? Because we have stories that we want to tell. So I'll put Trisha's information and Karen Grove's information, and watch our Facebook page for that event. I haven't gotten it together yet, hadn't worked out all the details, but I'm hoping that I can put those two together in one session so that people can have an honest discussion. I hope that's helpful.
Right. Well, Scott, you write back and let us know if that helps. But in the meantime, Tex, I want to put you on the spot, because I know Word has a wonderful map, and I see a couple of questions on here about one-on-one coaching. And on the Word website, there's a map where people can actually go and find what it is they're searching for. Can you go into a little more detail about that?
Absolutely. The map needs a little updating. It is from the before times, but we'd like to help people find the groups that they're looking for. So for example, we've had a couple people in the chat mentioning working on nonfiction. I would certainly recommend the Nonfiction Authors Association, which is a national organization with a Dallas chapter. Last time I checked in, it was Clay Morgan was co-chairing that. They do excellent work, but you really do need to check out Writing Workshops Dallas as well. They have run a fantastic range of programming that really spans the gamut. Blake can speak more to what's going on right now for them than I can. But Writing Workshops Dallas has a number of different programs, and I have seen nonfiction specialist courses coming through there pretty recently, I think. So, and for one-on-one coaching, I'll meet y'all out back in about 20 minutes after the session ends and we'll work it out.
Right. Well, please do, even outdated or not, please do go and check out that map on. I still refer people to this day to that map when I run across writers who want to connect and plug in. That's like the first thing I send them to, is to find a group in their area. I do also want to mention one of our members, Writer's Blog, Linda Jones. She is iconic veteran journalist here in Dallas. She also has a writing service called the Writing Doula, and she provides one-on-one nonfiction coaching, but she also has expertise in short form writing. So I'd like to mention her as well, and I'll put her information in the chat here in a second. So let me just move on to another part of that. We talked about the challenges, but what are some of the good things that you've heard from writers, or Tex, in your case, from member organizations about these turbulent times?
Well, it's something I was thinking about that. I think one thing that I expect that Aaron and Blake can speak to more than I can. But first of all, it does feel like we are finding writers that we missed back when were simply in person all the time, right? We are finding people who, for health or mobility reasons or just distance reasons, we would never see in person. And now we know who they are, and we're connected with them. And our groups are connected with them, and we are trying to find ways to move forward in such a way that we don't lose them when the world turns right side up again. But the other thing that I've been thinking a lot about is just how much we are all, like there's that meme say, we're not in the same boat, but we are in the same storm. And, previously when something happened to you that blew a big hole in your creativity, you lost a job, or you have a relationship breakup, or, you had the diagnosis, or something happened that would absolutely wreck you and derail your project. That was just you, and you were kind of alone in that difficulty. And, hopefully your close friends would help you with that. But right now we have a lot of writers, like almost every writer, I would venture to say, who's had a huge hole blown in their creativity. And I hope that the coping strategies we are having to collectively learn over this past year will be of great benefit to all of us when those individual things happen in the future that would have otherwise left us isolated. Because this has been unfortunately, it's been an excellent training ground for how do you move forward when, writing immortal deathless prose seems like the least important thing in the world. And I hope that we will get to enjoy the benefits of this big school of hard knocks, even after, everything's open again and we're all back to sunshine and rainbows. Yeah.
I would like to piggyback on that. Also, I would just like to say, this panel could have just been Tex, because she's brilliant, and most of the things she says at the beginning are like, yep, I'm gonna say the same thing as she did. But the thing that the thing that's also dovetailing that I think is really important, and it's useful for writers, but writers already do it, is the idea about thoughtfulness and intentionality, and extending your awareness to more than just the thing that you're focusing on, right? As writers, we have to go imaginative places. And what this has asked us to do at large is to think of ourselves not just in a single context any longer. We have to think of ourselves in a 6-foot radius. We have to think of ourselves in terms of how are we going to, how are we going to, as a community, work through a situation that is disproportionately affecting folks of color? How do we address that when we're putting vaccines out into the world? Like, if this can teach us something, it can teach us empathy, which is the thing that I personally think is going to solve the problems that exist in front of us. And especially as writers, that's our job. Our job is to, enkindle empathy in other people, to get them to think outside of themselves. And I really hope and believe and see exciting sparks of empathy in places I wasn't necessarily even expecting it before. And that to me is like best, sort of silver lining, if you can, of this is maybe we can conceive our world in a more connected, thoughtful, empathetic way.
Blake, Tamara, anything that you want to add to some of the positives that have come out of these turbulent times for writers or writers groups?
Yeah, I'll just briefly say that I feel like, this pandemic in the last 12 months has just made people audit their life in a way that's like, what do I really want to be doing? And maybe I'll try that. Maybe I'll try writing a novel, or maybe I'll write a personal essay, or maybe I'll write, hey, I've always wanted to write poetry. And I think it's making writers more brave. I mean, it's really hard to work through all of the emotions that we're having now as writers, especially, I came from Texas A&M. I was at the engineering firm. I took my first creative writing class at Brookhaven College here in Dallas back in 2007. I would leave the cubicle at 5 p.m. and reanimate at Brookhaven College at 7 p.m. And I just loved being around other writers. And I think that was the very first time where, I found other people who were just like me. And I think, Tex is fond of saying, find your tribe, or that's one of the taglines of word writers. And I realized that writing, I can only write what I can write, but I can do it a little bit better if I'm in community. And I think there's been a lot of that discovery. That same light bulb I had in 2007, I think it's going off, it's just pinging all around the world. And this online environment's allowing us to be more connected, as we're the most unconnected that we've ever been. So there is some like lemonade from lemons. I listened to an interview with Rick Steves, and he said, travel doesn't go away, it just backs up, so people are gonna be traveling again. And I feel like writers really love to get out into the community and meet up for happy hours and things. And so it's not going away, it's just backing up. And, personally at Writing Workshops Dallas, we're going to plan to keep our online programming going on, and we're going to fold back in-person workshops in fiction, poetry, nonfiction, and screenwriting as it is safe. So.
I agree with all that they have already said. I think that even though this is a hard thing that we're experiencing, I agree that the ability to get onto one of these video conferencing platforms and meet people from all over the world and share ideas has been fantastic, and we should have been doing it all along. And I hope that to some extent we can, as Blake was saying, we can combine the two and keep this going. Maybe it's not fun for some to not be able to get out and travel, but there are a lot of people that they can't. And you're right, we have met, Tex is right, we've met people that, or discovered people that were there all along that we just didn't know because they're not able to participate with us. We have, just at DAWG, we've every month, which is, just to be honest, I guess this is the nature of some of the smaller organizations, that sometimes retention is hard. Sometimes getting new members is hard. Sometimes getting people to come out to your venue, especially when you're in an area of a metroplex where people don't necessarily travel, or it takes too long to get to after work. Sometimes it's hard, but every month we've had a new small batch of members. Every month we've met new people from all over the world. We have new membership from Hawaii, from Canada. Now we have a group in Indiana that wants to partner with us and do programming with us. So how can you say no? And how can, when we go back to getting out and, getting in the street and mingling and stuff, how can you cut that off? So it's going to have to be something that at least for me, that is going to be a part of my life, to be able to meet people in this way. So I think that this part of it has been a silver lining for me.
Absolutely. I agree 1000% on the access. The writer's block too we have connected with writers in Canada and France and Thailand. I have no idea how they found us, but thank God for the pandemic that we went online, because otherwise we would have never connected. And we count that joy, we count that great. So that leads me to the next question then, which is, and Blake, you kind of answered this already, but so we're in the future, the pandemic is gone. What is like some of the first things that you'll do for your writers, for your groups, post-pandemic?
Well, I cannot wait to be in the backyard at the Wild Detectives again here in Dallas. And our online, we've offered online classes since 2018 at Writing Workshops Dallas, and so now that's just our primary thing. But I really can't wait to mix and mingle with my friends here in the literary community here in Dallas. But I think people will be really eager for that, for sure.
Anybody else want to jump in and answer that?
Donuts. Gonna have donuts. I tell you what, Ann, it is just, you would go to a writer's event, like, Sisters in Crime or the Dallas Mystery Writers, there would be snacks. By God, there would be snacks. And I have missed that so much, because you just can't do it on Zoom.
I think I owe you a piece of cake, actually. Weren't we supposed to
Don't throw the C word around if you don't mean it, Aaron. Do not promise what you can't deliver. But more specifically, I think for Word, the thing that we're really looking forward to is getting to run Writers in the Field again this October. This is an event that we do every year down in Mansfield. It's on 13 acres, where we do and help writers to do the things that they might be writing about, and actually for real, tack up the horses and fire the musket and do, we've done cloth dyeing. We had the coroners out from the Tarrant County Medical Examiner's Office to do mock crime scenes. We do lock picking. We do, just all of the really ridiculously fun, interesting, cool stuff that we might not get to do in our regular daily lives, but would feature in a work of fiction. And of course, we couldn't run that last year. I mean, because you can't. But that is an event that you absolutely cannot do online. And we're really excited to get to bring it back and say, yes, come swap pheromones with every other writer on the planet, and come do this stuff, come get dirty and have a blast and learn all this cool stuff, and come home with your the knife that you made at our forge and the book that you made at the bookbinding session, and just live to the nines. I'm really looking forward to that.
And I'll say one thing, that because it was so much of our programming and we're actually just kind of starting to pick it up again, I'm really excited about us getting back in classrooms, about kids being able to be together, about kids being able to not stare at screens all day. I mean, bless all of us, but especially them who are in such a formative part of their life where they're trying to figure out relationship and have their heads crammed with all sorts of stuff, and just like days are so full of things, and to have ask them to then sit down at a screen instead of like being in a room and hearing real people's voices and engaging in that way. I am so excited. Our summer program, Rail Riders, we take kids onto the DART trains and ride through the city, and then go to like Deep Ellum or the DMA, and they have an experience, and then they write about it, and then they share their writing, is something that you can only do in person. We tried to figure out how to adapt it online, and that was kind of a so it's really exciting to be able to get them to get back in the room with them, because that's, especially with kids, the way that we can turn them on to this, so that we have panels like this, so that the literary festival continues to be something big and grow and homegrown, is we have to get them excited about it, you know? And I'm so ready to get in the classroom again. Finn.
I want to be a little selfish and say what I am looking forward to. I was trying to get over there to visit Aaron at the Writers Garret, and I didn't get there. I had been participating with Blake, and I had to stop because things got a little busy. So I was trying to get back there. So as soon as all this is over, I'm coming to see you, Aaron, and I'm coming back over there, Blake. And Tex, you know, I'm always going to bug you. But for our writers, I became really excited about a couple of things that happened just before we went to the social distancing. We had our very first open mic night, and Tex and Blake and Dan Wells and Anne all helped me pull that off. And I am so appreciative of that, because I was terrified, but it was great fun. My board was terrified and didn't want to do it, but then they had a blast and they wanted to do it again. So, and Sandaria, I was scared to talk to you about it. I was going to ask you about it because I don't want to step into her territory, but you were an inspiration to me to do that. It was really scary for me, never having done something like that, but it was very rewarding. And Tex, I still have my Tums, and if you need some, but I accidentally washed them in the washing machine, but I think they're still good to go. But that's one of the things that I want to get back to, is having a couple of relaxed events like that, where people can come and listen to others and meet other writers in an event that's fun like that in our area. The other thing that I was really excited about, what last year, Anne helped me do a panel discussion about writing about when you're writing stories or developing characters, that you don't share those experiences of that character. You're writing outside of your own experiences, whether it's racially, culturally, religion, gender, sexual orientation, what have you. We titled it Perspective, Writing About Differences. And Alex Timlador and William Ledbetter and Anne were our panelists, and that was a little a little scary too. Being with in my group, we don't have a lot of discussions surrounding those types of issues. We don't have a lot of programming around own voices, and that's something that I like to do, because the fact of the matter is that we don't really live in vacuums or bubbles. We live with each other. We mingle with each other. We work with each other. We read each other's stories. We have to live together. And if we're going to write stories and you're going to include people or events or history about things that you don't necessarily know about, how do you do the research? How do you tell that story? And should you even write it? And Anne really helped us answer some questions in a fun and safe way during our panel discussion. And I think that's what it's all about, providing a safe place for people to ask questions and to get answers. So that's one thing that I'm looking forward to. She's agreed to help me with it again this year. So we'll probably do that in November. So that's one thing that we're changing, and one thing that I'm looking forward to.
Can I just say one more thing? Is you should get on the literary organization merry-go-round here in Dallas, because we actually all really collaborate and work together. And one of the things, I don't know if y'all are going to do WordFest again, Tex, but I've met so many writers, so many other writing organizations at WordFest, which of course is this great in-person free event that you all put on, which showcases all the writing organizations. When we were first doing Lit Talk with Interrobang Books in person, we didn't have a location because of the tornado. So Arianne and the Writers Garret stepped in and said, why don't y'all have lit talk at the Writers Garret, where we didn't get blown away in the tornado. So, you know, and everyone goes to everyone's events, and this is a great city and great region to be a writer, because there's just so much working together. And so, you know, go to wordwriters.org, find a writing organization near you, and then just start figuring out where you feel like you fit in, because there's a lot of really awesome organizations here in North Texas.
Okay, I have to jump on that just super quick. I know that there are a lot of younger organizations here right now today, and what's so exciting about this right now is that we are in the best time to be in the literary scene of Dallas. There were a number of organizations that started 25 years ago that are, you know, that were around in varying different degrees. And in the last like 5 years, there's been an explosion of this, and people are excited, they're hungry, they're wanting to connect. So, you know, one of the things I love about being here in this literary scene is that we're not San Francisco, we're not New York, in that like those things are set. These are the people that you have to be you have to get through the gatekeepers and with all this stuff, or like, if you're not with this group, then you're out. Like, no, get out here, start something, write something, show up. You know, it's a really great time to be in this place.
Okay, that's a great note to end on, Arianne and Blake. I hate to interrupt you guys, but we have people in the waiting room for the next one. We have the writers. We're talking about publishing in one event, and the other one we have our young writers. So don't forget to join us. But it isn't over yet. We start tomorrow at 10 o'clock a.m. Central time, because with being virtual, we've attracted people from around the world. So we start tomorrow at 10 a.m. Central. We're looking for all of you to be there. Thank you so much. And please join us for the last event of the evening, the last two events of the evening. And you know how much I appreciate this group right here. Thank you, guys. Sorry to have to cut you off next time.
Thank you all. Bye.